Ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime, and for once I'm justified in saying it in this way. This time we have something different. This stream is going to be in English, mostly because we have an English-speaking guest. It's Gleb DrBrilmann Korotkiy. He's an English caster for Ultraliga. He started doing the broadcast for the Polish and the Baltic region this season, and we wanted to try something else on the channel. But also with us we have Veggie. He used to be a coach, but you have to be ancient to remember that. 2014 Rocket, the Polish lineup. Other than that, right now he's head of esports for Illuminar Gaming, one of the teams in Ultraliga. And then there's me, I'm just a journalist, so that's not important. But before we go in, maybe for Polish fans a little bit. Kochani, tym razem całość po angielsku. Próbujemy czegoś nowego, zobaczymy jak to będzie, zapowiedź finałów, mam nadzieję, że nie będzie wam to przeszkadzało, a jak się przyjmie, no to wtedy będziemy też może robili częściej content po angielsku. Mam nadzieję, że dacie sobie z tym radę tym razem i nam wybaczycie. Taki dla nas eksperyment. Alright, and back to English. So, guys, first thing first, it's the finals week, but before we get to it, I alluded to the fact that Gleb, you started casting Ultraliga this season, and how has it been for you?
It's the biggest blast of a time that I have for the entirety of my life, really.
No, what?
No, I mean it's actually very, very fun. It's very interesting.
Didn't you commentate any other tournaments or something?
Well, we have been covering some smaller tournaments. I've
With
been doing
Sauli, yes.
with Soli, we have been covering some like smaller leagues and stuff like that.
Ah.
Then I myself was also like going around and doing a lot of those like smaller gigs, you know, to get the experience, to get yourself rolling, to understand how the whole thing works, to put it this way. But in general, this is like the first time when I actually got the opportunity to do something really big, and I'm having a blast of my time, really.
So like you were doing esport lands and small tournaments, right? But in what region? Because not in Poland, obviously.
Bro, what we were doing. I mean, there was an American one that I've been doing there.
So
It's
you
been
went
an
to the States for a tournament.
No, I didn't. It was all distance. It was all remote casting, everything. Yeah. Yeah, it's don't forget the fact that we're basically living in a post-COVID era. So a lot of things that were done was actually done in the COVID era, and at the time, remote casting was the only way how you can actually conduct the broadcasts. And I basically use this as an opportunity for myself to grab some experience and contact with people and try to get myself, you know, rock and rolling in this particular part. And it was an interesting experience, because sometimes you had to work like Sundays from 12 midnight to like 4 o'clock in the morning, because they have a tournament there. For them, it's their evening. For you, it's the night. So you're sitting there with a cup of coffee and you want to kill yourself, basically, because you just go, why am I doing this to myself? Why can't I just go and cast something different? Right. But you know, I did like 4 or 5 those smaller gigs before actually going, like, you know, for the big fish, basically.
And how did
Okay,
it...
so
Okay.
yeah, go ahead, Bartek.
Okay, so my question is like, how did it turn out like for you? How did you get the gig in casting Ultraliga this season?
I got very lucky. Let's put it this way. I got really, really lucky.
Okay, like, but you contacted someone, like, was there an open...
Like that's the answer. He got really lucky. He was like sitting at his house, right, just doing something, and all of a sudden somebody broke into his house, you know, through the window, and it turns out it's a guy from Ultraliga. And he's like,
yeah, it was basically.
Yeah.
Remember, there's like a Superman, there's Batman, and there's Ultraliga man who just flew into my window. And hello there. And, you know, the rest of history.
Yeah, and he's like, I can either, you know, murder you and steal your stuff, or you can cast Ultraliga. So yeah, I was pretty lucky.
I mean, he stole some stuff. He stole my heart.
Oh, you're like a kind of duo pair together with what's her name? Soli?
Yeah, Solari.
Solari. Okay, sorry. Right? So you're just like some kind of duo pair, right?
Yeah.
You always cast together. Okay.
Yeah, we try to at the very least. We've been working with each other for quite some time. We've been practicing with each other quite a lot. So it's actually, in a way, it's very interesting to cast with somebody who you actually know really well. It's a very nice experience because you know, especially when we're talking about remote casting, I would say, right? Because you don't really have any interaction with your partner. Not that well, you do have, but it's very limited because of the setups, because of how you're supposed to set up your computer, because how things should be looking like in the broadcast and stuff like this. So your actual interaction with your partner is extremely limited, almost to the extent that you actually have to react to subtle changes of someone's voice in order to understand if you can capitalize on this like information you were given, and then you would just gradually slip in and just go, okay, yes, I understand your point, and then you work with it. So having an opportunity to work with somebody who you really know in terms of remote casting is an absolute blessing, really. It is an absolute blessing.
But am I understanding it correctly that you guys are currently in Warsaw, or at least in Poland?
She is, and I'm located in Prague, Czech Republic. I am not that far from you.
Okay, so that's actually.
Yeah, I want to go to Prague. I want to go to Prague actually with my family. Yeah, but
it's lovely in here.
Maybe in 2 or 3 years or something when the kids are bigger, right? Yeah. So
that they can drink beer.
No, so that actually it's easier for us, because when you go with little kid, you have to, every 2 hours you have to, he's crying when he wants to sleep or something. So it's hard to make a longer trip by car, right? Yeah. So we thought about like this trip, well, okay, so that's not. Wait,
that's very important, Veggie. Your personal life is fantastic.
I never have time. I never have time for anything. So obviously, I don't watch the Ultraliga cast in Polish nor in English. So I have no idea how your cast, looks like and stuff. Like how many viewers did you guys have? Like, because I think a lot of people, I remember, when there was the merging with the Baltic region, right? There was like a lot of talk that it's gonna kill the Baltic region because there is no like cast in Lithuanian or anything, right? From what I know, there's only like Ultraliga English, right?
I think so. At the very least, I don't know.
So basically, your viewers are the guys from there, or are there French people watching or something? What do you think?
I would presume so. I would presume, yeah, that these are primarily the Baltics fans, because we've got quite a few teams, right? So we've got, I think, 2 at the moment, if I recall correctly. There's Iron Wolves.
The top organizations from there, actually, also.
Yeah, right. So, and I mean, if I recall correctly, Iron Wolves have been the winners of the Baltic season from the previous season. So, understandably. So I would presume, yes, Baltics region is probably watching us. Maybe some Polish fans, maybe, if they want something, because sometimes you get tired of one cast, you just want to go to the other. You just want to see the rotation in a way. So maybe there's some Polish.
I can tell you, I'm doing that from time to time, because sometimes after like 2 or 3 years now of listening mostly to the same voices, I'm like, the game comes on and there's like a pairing of commentators, and like, I can't do it today. Let's check the English stream, which is actually pretty. Yeah, please.
The guys on chat are saying that they watch you guys so they don't have to watch Silvan from Polsat games,
yes, the classic new banter.
I respect the watching us. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the part of we are watching you. Thank you.
I thought there was I think the peak I saw was like 500 concurrent viewers. Is that correct or not?
500?
Yeah, 500. Yeah.
I am definitely sure that we've peaked much more than that, because at one point I got really, really cocky, so I really wanted to check, and I have seen 1.7K.
Yeah.
So.
Wow, that's not bad. Hey. Actually, but you guys are also on Twitch and YouTube, right?
No, I think on only Twitch, if I recall correctly.
Okay. So on Twitch, I think even the main cast is only 3,000. So that's really not that bad. So, but you think that the viewership has gone up, like more and more people would tune in, actually?
I definitely hope so, honestly, because I think that in a certain way, Irreals are not getting enough attention. It's going to sound a bit pretentious, I would say, even controversial in a way, but I genuinely think that it is very refreshing from time to time, even though that if you're a fan of those like bigger main leagues, to refer sometimes to those academy leagues to see who you may potentially see in the future, right? Because if you, again, speaking about the fact that there's finals coming up right now, right? We've got Agarogue, and in there's all 5 members of the team are potentially maybe LAC in some nearest of the futures, and you can see their potential that they can actually make it. I mean, you probably know the gig that Luca almost went for the Chovy KDA, which is, I mean, it's Ultraliga and then it's Chovy. It's just on the paper sounds like blasphemousy, but it works that way, right? So I think it's refreshing to sometimes just refer to the area leagues and have a look around what people are actually playing there, what people are doing there, how are they playing there? Because from region to region, League of Legends is just completely different. It always shifts itself like a chameleon from region to region.
I had one more question about
Chameleon, like a chameleon
ESCA.
Rashid. Yeah.
Ah.
No, I thought you were talking about something else.
Okay.
Okay.
No,
sorry.
I had a question about the workload, because I know that when I started as a journalist, I was writing after the match reports or such for the website, and I was doing it for 2 years on my own. So every match day I was doing it and I was watching it, and you're casting it. So isn't it like overbearing a little bit? Isn't it like getting to you? Isn't like the work too much?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes, very rarely, but sometimes I can feel that I got slightly exhausted, especially when you get to the moments when it was just an overall hard week, and then you cast those 2 days in a row, and sometimes you can't because when it comes to me, for example, I can't really just fall in a bed after we've finished the cast and just go to sleep because I'm so overwhelmed with energy and emotions and stuff that I'm not actually capable of just, shutting down myself like a computer. I need some time to reflect. A few times I remember it very, 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 very distinctively that my voice just went, it disappeared, and I wake up in the morning and I just sound like this. And I go, oh my God, I'm supposed to be live in 8 hours.
Dude,
and I sound like this.
You're like 23.
22 to be precise.
I'm 31 after 2 days of LEC playoffs. You're gonna be dead when you're 31, really.
I will do it graciously. But I mean, honestly, on the other hand, it's very cool because you get this fantastic opportunity to push yourself to a limit. And I get so much experience out of it as a play-by-play because basically as you progress through the season, games are getting tougher and tougher because they mean more, right? How many times you happen to watch yourself something that we had on the last day of the regular split when Gentleman's Gaming Miracle Run for the playoffs was happening, right? And they had to win the first game. I think they were playing like exactly the first game of the regular split. And then it was in the hands of Devils 1 to defeat Como and Friends, because if they do it, then Gentleman's Gaming would qualify. And you just go apeshit because you understand this intrigue, this drama of going on there. And as you progress in split, there's more and more things like that happening. And have an opportunity to actually develop my voice and myself as a caster through so much work experience is something that I'm extremely grateful for. If I could, I would be just, goodness me, I would just cast like 4 days a week easily. I would do that because I love it.
Yeah, but you're like, let's say somebody that's new coming into the Polish League of Legends scene. So you didn't know any players from previous years or something, right? So like after this season, what do you think about the Polish League of Legends scene as an outsider?
I would say that some drafts are surprising in terms of what champions work for what teams, because mostly what I was really, really surprised about is that we haven't seen a lot of Twist of Fate in the whole split. I was really, really genuinely surprised because I thought it was going to be one of those picks that would just, be pumped in there. So I was expecting something like more Silases, more Rises, although we got plenty of Rise action, but not as much as I would expect them, to be there. Because mostly what we were getting, I think, from the first half of the split was Victor and Korotkiy, by far the most of it. Which is, I mean, it's fine, but when you watch basically 10 games per week, and let's say 16 out of 20 is going to be Korotkiy against Victor matchup, when you see that and you just go, oh, for goodness sake, can you play something, pick something different? I'm tired.
Polski Korotkiy,
Polski
You have to
Korotkiy,
play
tak
Korotkiy in
jest.
Poland, It's actually, it's actually a legendary, meme that for some reason throughout the years we've had a lot of Korotkiy mid players in Poland, and it was just,
And
we're
it
just
doesn't matter
scaling,
what the
right? When
meta
everything's
is.
go bad, when there's a Polish team and when everything's go bad, just take Korotkiy and scale, right? So, yeah, Victor,
Right,
Victor
guys,
is
we'll
something else,
scale.
but yeah, Polski Korotkiy is
And
actually.
it fucking
Yeah,
works.
okay.
You'd be surprised.
Sorry for interviewing you. That wasn't the reason of this whole stream. That's enough questions from me,
Exactly. We'll be moving now to the games as we have very limited time as the hour is very late. So we'll get into the upcoming matches on Tuesday. So it's tomorrow on the day of broadcasting. It's the lower bracket final. It's the małe finał. It's the Iron Wolves versus Team ESCA Gaming match. Iron Wolves is coming off of defeat against Agorok. It was a very one-sided series. But on the other hand, ESCA is coming from a 3-0 victory against Zero Tenacity, which was kind of surprising, I think, for everyone, as Z10 was pretty much hyped up as the team that's on the rise. It's going up. The scrims are going well. So let's start there. Which team you guys want to start with first, ESCA or Iron Wolves?
Yeah, let's go with Iron Wolves because I think you Brillman started before, right? About Iron Wolves.
I was talking about Rogue, but we can start with Iron Wolves with no
okay.
problem at all. I mean, we can do that surely.
Okay, so about the series so generally Iron Wolves is actually quite a shock that they ended second place in my opinion. Like,
Yes.
I really think that Illuminar just went into the dumpster because as a guy that made the roster, there was a lot of unfortunate events that happened this season that are still continuing. But basically, another team that's kind of like Illuminar in this sense is actually for me is Z10, right? Because honestly, when I looked at this roster, this was like a top 2 roster for me, 100%. So Iron Wolves taking second place was quite a shock for me, actually. I didn't expect this. And I think this showed in this match. I mean, actually, all the matches that were last week were actually quite boring, which is quite interesting. But Iron Wolves, I didn't really give them a lot of chances. I always thought this was just a mismatch in roster strength. And during this series, we can look at the stats and say, Solius was, had a hard time. But I don't think there's any one player that you can say that played bad. It was just every lane was mismatched and they had no chance. I don't know. What are you guys' opinion? I thought they would win maybe one map, because they're a kind of tough team in my opinion, right? That they're the kind of team that they have so much experienced players that there might be a game where Ago just makes a mistake late game and that'll be a map for Iron Wolves. But we didn't even see that. So even though I thought that maybe this could be 3-1, it would still be Ago winning quite confidently.
You want to go, or should I?
No, I'm letting you take the stage.
Okay. I guess in some way I agree and both disagree, because I was really hyped with Iron Wolves going into the playoffs after their, in my eyes, what was almost like a absolutely astonishing development in terms of the regular season. It felt like the guys are probably the best team fighters in the league. It felt like it really did. They're the innovative and extremely enjoyable, I would even say, way of team fighting of Iron Wolves was something that I was praising a lot, and I was thinking that might be, that might be the game changer in a certain way. Right, that this might be something that will help them defeat Ago, because Ago, I think I've even called them like that somewhere, and I still sort of believe that I wasn't really far from the truth. It's like Korean type-ish clean team. We're going as clean as possible. We execute things by the book, talking about Agorok now, right? So we just do things, without any crazy creative innovativeness into it. While Iron Wolves give me the impression of a mad Irish person who had a lot of whiskey in the bar and now he's looking for a fight. So basically anything, including, I don't know, a telephone, basically just a cell phone, can become a weapon in his hand. And that what made me so interested in it. And when they dropped all 3 games, it really felt like either Ago did an extremely very good homework and they knew exactly what they're supposed to be doing against Ago, or Ago just really got up from the wrong foot and they forgot everything that we loved them for, from the regular split.
Yeah,
So
Ago had some interesting things. I agree. Like the Xerath bot was really weird, right? So that was like some dark technology I did not expect. I'm gonna be honest. And the truth is that, as you say, they played like different team comps, right? Like, okay, they're not team comps that can't team fight, but they're team comps that can do other things, right? Like Xerath in itself will just be a poke champion, right? So it does change the dynamics that you're not really gonna look for a team fight when you're on equal footing. You're probably just gonna look for a team fight when the enemy is low, right? So I guess maybe that could be true that in a sense, right, Ago had the possibility from draft to maybe, not get into these team fights with animals.
It felt like it. It really did. So that's why basically I'm actually looking forward a lot to tomorrow's series, because it feels like this is going to be the redemption arc for Wolves. They come back.
The team fight also, yeah.
And they have a very big problem in terms of ESCA to deal with, which is their bot lane. Arguably the best bot lane in the league. With all due respect to Luca and Leon, the level of synergy between Marlon and Harpoon is just fucking magnanimous, really. It's just a delight.
They destroyed VZZ and Voitus, which actually is not a bad. Like VZZ is actually quite an experienced player. He's played in New Masters before. Okay, Voitus is a little bit of like Voitus. Like a year ago, you would say this guy is good. What are you joking, right? But actually, the facts speak for themselves, right? When he went to the Balkan region, since then he's made a lot of improvement, right? So Voitus maybe has stopped being a little bit of a joke, right? Because before he was also known that he played with a streamer called Xayo, right? So Xayo is a very big streamer in Poland. So even his nickname was Voitus from Xayo, basically. So now it's just Voitus. But the way they just manhandled VCZ and Voitus is actually, we knew they'd win, right? But we didn't expect them to just destroy, right? So yeah. I agree. Yeah, Leon and Lucker were probably actually the worst part of Ago, right, this season. So yes, definitely, it's interesting to see what Chips and Yashiro come up with, right?
I think that when we compare ESCA's bot lane with a Rogue's bot lane, it is very important to look at the fact that ESCA's bot lane maybe doesn't thrive that much individually. They are still individually exceptional players. Exceptional, both of them. Marlon being probably one of the best roaming supports out there and impacting the map like he's a second jungler, basically. And Harpoon just by himself doing some absolutely fantastic things. While when you look at Rogue, you just see Lucker, and you think, yeah, okay, but this guy is just, he's tiny bit, but he's better. And then Leon, who is innovative when it needs to be innovative, because I'm still, if this is something I was very proud of myself when I was actually casting the thing, and this is something that, because I pointed it out on the cast, and this is something that I was really happy to see from Leon. I think that was actually the fight that they had with us when they saw Iron Wolves for the second time, is when Leon flashed over the wall despite the fact that he was dying from Ignite to get away from Diego, who was about to get a reset onto him. And if he did, that would have turned the fight around. So there's not really a lot of supports in the league who can react to something like that so quickly, because it was basically
the right person, basically.
So
died in the right way.
Yeah, he died in the right way, but it is very important for support to die in the right way when it's needed, right? So I would say that I am looking in these terms. I'm looking to see the synergy from Lucker and Leon to step up if they want to do something against the bot lane of ESCA, because these two guys. I mean, look at the last series that they were playing in Zero Tenacity. And look at what they were doing with Zero Tenacity on their own in the last game, with Pike Kaiser combination. I mean, it was basically like 2 of them against 5 of them, and they were winning. And Marlon together with Harpoon, they were winning 2 against 5. That's some other world.
The problem is, it's like, whenever I look at the ESCA lineup, I'm like, there's that meme, he can't keep getting away with it, like, because, here's like, isn't this called like, the hazard paradox, the hazardous paradox or something that, if there's a guy playing, I don't know, on a slot machine, in his mind, it's like, since it's not a 0 chance that I'll win, if I just keep on playing the slot machine, eventually I'll win, right? Just like with the coin, right? Like, it's been 3 times tails already. It'll definitely be heads next time, right?
Okay.
So, it's kind of the way I think about the dual lane of ESCA. And, okay, maybe not even the dual lane, because, they did it all season, so I guess it's consistent enough that, obviously they can win games when the gank comes around and it works. But, there's one person I'd probably think that maybe it might not work. It's actually Mrozku. I'm shocked that he's been doing so well, because this is a guy who came in the middle of the season. This is not a very experienced player from the Polish pro scene. He's not a player where you would say, okay, they had problems playing with Lisang, so they're taking this experienced guy that's sitting out the season for some reason. So obviously this experienced guy is coming in to save the team, and he's just going to do all right. This Mrozku guy, first of all, he's playing champions that have a lot of weight to them. Like, if you're new and you're going to play Yona or Silas, right? There's a risk. And, I'm really surprised that Mrozku played this series that well against Sebex, a guy who's just a legend of the Polish scene. And I'm just wondering, right? Like, Salus had a bad series against Agorog. Like, I'm just waiting for a worse day for Mrozku. That's my problem. Like, yeah, from the bot lane, like, it's insane what they get away with. But I guess during a 5-map series, maybe one game, Marlon and Harpoon, it won't work, right? But with Mrozku, I'm thinking, if there's 3 games where it doesn't work, and he just feels overconfident or cocky, maybe that's an approach for Iron Wolves to maybe try and win mid lane strong.
I really hate to be the host in this.
Is Mrozku, can he be exploited?
Guys, I really hate to be the host in this conversation, but we went from Iron Wolves through Ago and ended with ESCA. So let's structure it, because I'm guessing that some of the people that are watching.
It's good. It's good, Bartek, because then at the end we'll go. This is just general,
I know, but I'm just trying to order it a little bit for the viewers that maybe did not watch the entire split. For us, it's obvious because we know who the players are, we know the teams, and we know how they played. But for a viewer that didn't and just trying to check it out, it may be a little bit confusing, so a little bit more structure. So if we're on ESCA, then let's stay on ESCA for a little bit and focus on the next match, okay? Not theorize about the bot lane matchups in the final if they beat Iron Wolves, completely ignoring the Iron Wolves series at the beginning.
so ESCA against Iron Wolves, that's what you want,
yes,
right?
Yes,
yeah.
basically
Okay.
I wanted you to bring it down a little bit and focus on this one, and on Mrozku.
So what do we think about Mrozku?
So Solius and Mrozku, basically the matchup is what we talk about. When I think that with Mrozku, it's a bit of a question in terms of, I absolutely agree with you that you kind of wait for the moment for the man to slip, because yes, he is extremely inexperienced, and either he's a bloody prodigy, that's one way of looking at it, or he's just a very cocky young man who's going to get away with his over aggressiveness, because I guess it's a pretty much of a standard, tradition type of a situation when you have a very cocky young man who's approaching you and who's able to beat you basically, and you just, as a veteran, you just stay there and looking at him with that face of, you what, mate? Slow down a bit, you young cock, basically. And this is what keeps happening. But I think that with Iron Wolves, this is something that maybe ESCA are not ready for, because when we talk about that duo from ESCA, okay, fine, there's another duo coming from Iron Wolves, which is the mid-jungle duo, right? The Soli and Solius. And this is where Wolves can spin it around, and this is where Mrozku can have a lot of bad time, because for that duo of Soli and Solius, I think Mrozku is exploitable. This basically top side combo from Wolves we've seen them show. I don't really want to say consistently, but because I don't feel like it was very consistently, but I feel like they are very high ups, and Morosco, especially if he's going to play on those really aggressive champions who like to trade, who like to go really up close and deep in the lane to go for a trade. I'm imagining, I don't know, saying, making stuff in my head right now, but imagining a matchup of Yasuo and Ryze, for example, or something like that. I think that it's going to be an easy time for Soli and Solius to exploit Morosco's aggressiveness. And this is where the mid lane matchup can really not work for him. But on the other hand, this is something that I feel like we need to mention as well, is that we haven't really seen Morosco to play on anything safe enough. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, what if the draft in the BO5 goes that way? Like sometimes there's just a day where the meta changes, right? Like for some reason this day this champion is good, this champion is bad. Even the one scrims it was differently, right? So if the series all of a sudden goes into a place where, yeah, for some reason, the assassin type melee mid Silas Yasuo Yone stops working for some reason, as you said, like for example, Iron Wolves just find an answer to it. Like what does Rusko do? I'm not saying he can't play anything else, but lately this is what he's been playing, and it has been working.
But then my counter is the champion pool of the Iron Wolves players. Because before the stream started, I said that I checked their stats, and they are mostly one tricks over the course of the split. Like their champion pools are not that big, or maybe their preferred champion pools are not that big, because they mostly have 8 games on one champion, then maybe 4, and that's it. And then 1. So they can play other things, but they do not like it, and they do not like to deviate from the plan. So for me, it's like, can you push Morosco off of his comfort? Like, can you punish him with yourself not showing anything pretty much consistently other than the victor?
I guess it's also a big question of how the scrims went after the defeat from Rogue, because I'm not, trying to be like a foreseer here or something, but I would suspect that both for the players, coaching stuff and whatnot, a stomping 3-0 in a really stomping fashion is a red flag where you slow down, like really slow down, sit down with everyone involved, and you go, okay, boys and girls, that's not working, shit is swirling, what we can do about it. So I would expect that coming into this series, we would see shifts in the drafts. I wouldn't be surprised to see some shifts in terms of the drafts, like new comps or maybe new approach to the old comps. Because now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're playing on the B patch, not A anymore, right? 12.6 B, not A.
I think. Yes, so for example, Jinx is a little bit weakened, right?
So I really do think that we're going to see some tweaks because of this, because some of the prior picks like Jinx, for example, won't work. So I would suspect that we're not going to see Aphelios that much, because it's not that, it was mostly, Jinx Aphelios matchup. If somebody takes, Jinx Aphelios Zeri, and not having these 3 champions in your draft influences your overall draft quite a lot, I would say. Especially
actually the best thing is that this patch is actually good. Yeah.
First, Yashiro played mostly Jhin, like 8 games, then it was Jinx like 4, and then Aphelios like 2, and then like random shit after that. So it's like,
he was not really playing meta, right?
So it's not really influencing him, at least.
Yeah, and actually the worst thing is that for Harpoon, it's actually great that Kai'Sa is like popular again. This guy was a Kai'Sa player last season also, right? So this guy is really good with Kai'Sa and team fights. So actually, it is a problem. He already showed us a good Zeri, right? And the meta, for example, in LEC playoffs this weekend was basically, there was some Caitlyn in there, right? So that could actually change things around, but we're probably expecting bans there. But actually, Zeri was picked all the time. Kai'Sa was not picked because that was a mid lane champion in that series, but here it's a very big possibility, especially since, for example, Lucker also played Kai'Sa right in their series. So champion pool wise, actually it's even better for ESCA than it was last week, I think. So I don't know. I just don't know what, actually for Iron Wolves, I would want actually Chipsa and Yashiro to play like a factor lane like Ziggs, but I don't think.
I mean, you can go for the good old Lucian Nami combo and just be happy.
Yeah, but that's the problem.
They almost won Europe the world.
Right? Yeah, but they don't play that. Maybe that would be the best for them if they played a lane that's non-interactive, right? So, but I don't think they can. So I don't know. I just see a very big problem for the bot lane of Iron Wolves. For mid lane, yeah, I as we discussed before, I think that things could happen. And now when it comes to the top lane, Hashira is not a player I was like really hyped about. And I think he was just okay during the season, but actually the last series he played really well.
Yeah.
So that's interesting for me, especially because Mumus is actually a very, very experienced top laner. And I don't know what to think about the top lane, because Takan is really like one game he can play well, but the next game he's really bad. So
he's extremely
inconsistent. About the top lane?
Yeah, he is extremely inconsistent, and this is something that I'm super surprised about in terms of, well, it's super surprised in terms of that I wouldn't expect it to be that much inconsistent in some ways. I have no hard feelings for the man, but because he created one of the best moments for me as a shoutcaster when I was basically just spitting everything I could fire from my mouth with sayings "burn, butcher, burn," and I was enjoying it when he was playing one of his first games on Ornn. But then the man is either playing like a god, like you just look at him and go, "Oh my god, that's a new wonder," or something like that. And then the man plays on the level of a strange solo queue top laner that kind of knows what he's doing, but things are not working for him. So he's drunk or something, right? This is like a very big drop from one point to the other, and I think that might strike back for the Wolves quite a lot, because he's showing consistency. Maybe he's not like the most superstar player on the team as well, but at least he's consistent. You know what he's going to do. You know that his laning phase is going to be fine. It's not going to be really bad, right? And you know that you can find a way to work with him. And in the last series, again, yes, he has shown some incredible plays. So I have a lot of worries for that part of the map, honestly, in the upcoming matchup when it comes to the Wolves.
So putting it all together, who do you think will win? Because we have to speed up with the time limit that we have.
I don't know. I'd say that actually I think ESCA wins. And there's actually one more factor. ESCA is just playing like magic together, because that's like anti-Illuminar. Illuminar played, like when you look at the players, the sum of the players compared to the result was like shit. It was so bad. It's incredible that it was that bad. Looking at the roster, at the history of the players, 3/5 of the roster stayed from previous season where these players were top 2 and now they're 9th. It was incredibly bad. ESCA is the opposite. At the start of the season, I think I put them like 5th, right? Like I knew that obviously some of these players are good, but almost everybody agreed that compared to last season's roster, this is kind of a little bit weaker roster, right? And obviously people were saying that Iron Wolves coming in, Z10, even Goskilla might give them a run for the money because these on paper rosters, they look better than ESCA. So I think that, it's great that ESCA is doing great now and there's a lot of hype around ESCA, but compared to the beginning of the season, not a lot of people would say that it would go this well for ESCA. So actually, I think ESCA is the reverse of Illuminar, and actually these players are playing better than the sum of their parts. And it just feels like they're having fun playing. I just think this, you have to get a bit lucky to get something like this, but this roster is just like, it has a little bit of magic in it. And, you can't really plan that out. It's just the reason that that has happened, right? And, the magic will just, I think actually this will be probably like 3-1 or 3-0 for ESCA. I actually think this is another one-sided series. Like, I'm looking for Iron Wolves, what they could do, but just, maybe they can win mid-jungle. But apart from that, they're just, even if they do that, I just feel that ESCA is just having too much damn fun playing with each other. And that just helps them.
I can't really disagree. I really can't disagree, because ESCA really seem to be like a team that enjoy doing stuff, and when that stuff works, they start to enjoy it even more, and they do more stuff. It's like, dopamine helps you to play good in a certain way. But I would say that on paper, based on the experience that we had previously in the playoff series, ESCA wins 3-1. But, and there's one big but, sounds a bit more wrong than I wanted it, but you get the idea.
You just can't lie. I get
it. But I think that we have to look at the first game first and foremost to see in what shape the Wolves are. Either they have completely collapsed after they have lost against Aga and they quit on fighting and they are fine with being in the play-ins of Masters, because if you finish third, I believe you can have the play-ins, not the main event. So either it's that or Wolves come back much stronger, because as much as ESCA is magic and they're having so much fun, again, in terms of team fighting, I don't think we've seen anyone more creative and innovative as Wolves. So I'm like, on paper, that's a 3-1 for ESCA, definitely. But to be certain if that's the case or not, I think we have to look at the first game.
Iron Wolves to win, I think what would have to happen is as I said, he can't keep getting away with it, and there's just a complete collapse around Mrozku and Ksoner. Maybe, right? When I think about the meta, the problem is it's not really a mid lane heavy carry meta. When I even think about LEC, obviously Ultraliga is not LEC, right? But even in the LEC, a lot has been going down bot lane, let's say a little bit around top lane. But mid lane, when you get to the late game, you have these hard carry matchups. But even last weekend, I remember Humanoid playing on LeBlanc. This is a carry champion. Actually, he couldn't do that much in the game, right? I'm not saying that, it wasn't Humanoid's fault, but actually he did play 3 games of LeBlanc, so that was quite a sample size, right? And, let's say that even if Mrozku and Ksoner collapse, what is Salah's going to play? Syndra, yes, he could hard carry with Syndra. But apart from that, Victor, what is a monster Victor game? A monster Victor game, even if the enemy collapses on mid lane, you're not with Victor, this is an assassin snowball champion. You're not going to have...
When you single-handedly steal an Elder Drake, remember?
Okay, that's true, but that's the reason, because Elder Drake is late game. A monster Victor game doesn't mean that you have, 5-0, 10 minutes in.
0-0-1.
All the lanes. A monster Victor game is exactly that. 0-0-1, but you're 20 CS ahead, and when it's going to be the 30-minute mark, you're going to have... That's when you have 10-0. When the team fights come and you're killing everybody because you have so much damage. But the problem is that if Ksoner and Mrozku are exploitable, then, I would expect Salius to... A Syndra could do this, but I would expect the LeBlanc.
He also played Akali, by the way. He also played a very good Akali.
That's also what I wanted to say. So that's what would be needed. An Akali or a LeBlanc that wins mid and then wins the other lanes. Because what are you going to do with Harpoon and Malin? What are you going to do? Well, we don't know really about Pod, but, possibly Hashara looks okay coming into this matchup, right? It also seems that Kakan is just going to have a Gnar series. He's been playing mainly Gnar. Gnar's in the meta. He's just going to be a Gnar. It's just going to be Kakan's name is Gnar, right? So, he's not going to carry either. So that's my problem. And also, Soli is not Yalnatis, That's the other problem. Even if you exploit Sonar, he's not going to take, Kiana and just win the game by himself. So that's a problem for me. That even if those guys collapse, Sonar and Mrozku, for Iron Wolves, Sali and Salus are just not the type of player I would expect to carry them. So sorry, it's just 3-1 for ESCA, and I just can't see a different world. Sorry, Iron Wolves.
So moving on, it means that the final will be ESCA versus Ago. So how do you see this matchup going? Is it like a stomp from Ago, or actually ESCA can do it through the bot lane as we discussed earlier, right?
I think they're going to have much more harder time against Rogue. We're talking about ESCA, because the problem is that if you like come from a certain perspective onto it, and we have been talking about it already, that Ago's bot lane is not the place of the biggest and the best synergy. And therefore, I would say that it is not actually the biggest threat coming from Ago, but individually every one of them and all of the top side of the map, all 3 lanes there, is something you have to be really terrified of. Because Sinmivak is having... The man is just reborn. He's a phoenix. He's flying. And he's burning every single thing he sees on his way. I mean, look at the last series that he had. Yeah. He was just exploding on everything. Doesn't matter what he plays. He just explodes. And Ago have already shown that they're able to flip it around anybody they really want. They want to flip it around Simulak, it's going to work. They want to do, they want to go with Rabble as a main carry. No problem. They want to do Knight. Go ahead, mate. I think even if Leon...
around any lane, yeah.
Exactly. I think that if they want to, they will be even able to play Leon as a carry support. If they really, really want to. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I mean, it's a stretch, but, in one way or the other, you get what I mean. It's a very hard...
They can play around bot lane, but... Maybe not only on support, But
don't disrespect them.
They played a great Hikaru game. Like, remember the last game against Illuminar, actually, where, on a Hikaru he had like 20 plus kills or something. Obviously, that was a troll game, but, even last series, they showed a lot of depth, right? Like, they had the Kaisa game, right? Where, obviously, Kaisa's a late game monster. They had the Karma plus Hikaru game.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ago can pull out a lot of stuff, right?
I think that they're the most versatile and flexible team that we have, which is very important in the current meta, I would say. Because with a lot, in a certain way, of very big prio picks that are going to be changed coming into this particular week, thanks to the changes to the bot lane, which is pretty much the only lane that has the biggest prio picks, because it's a running gig right now that whoever picks Jinx first is going to win the game regardless, because one mistake from the other opponents and Jinx is going to spin it around and just kill everybody. We just know that is going to happen, right? Which is not necessarily 100% true, but there is this unfortunate potential coming from it, and now it's going to be spin a little bit differently, and so there's going to be prio picks on more lanes thanks to that, because with the pickup of Jinx and Zeri, we kind of forget that Victor is a prio pick. We kind of forget that Korotkiy is a prio pick. We forget that Camille and Set were prio picks. I mean, since when? We don't care. We care about the bot lane. And that's where Rogue have such a natural advantage, because now they don't need to, now as a team playing against the Rogue, you don't need to worry only about bot lane. You have all of them to worry about, because every single one of them now is going to have a prio pick. So how do you spin this around?
Like, when I was talking about Mrodsku plus Xon that having problems possibly against Iron Bulls, though, I think they'll manage. I put 3-1 ESCA. Yeah, and you know what? I think Harpoon and Marlon will be fine.
Yeah.
I think Hashero will be fine. But I can't imagine Knight and Rubble, the guys from Gamer Legion, who came as a duo. They can obviously play many things. They're obviously really good. The mid-jungle mismatch is too much for me. This is the worst thing. I would like ESCA to win. I would like ESCA to win. I just hate Ago. No, what I mean is, it's just annoying that, they always have the best roster on paper. They have the most money. They're the academy team from LEC, so they have to win. I'm not mad of them winning. I just want them to at least have to fight for it, right? So some of the seasons when Ago won, they didn't have to fight for it. I hate that, right? It's like, I feel like then Ultraliga has lost. So obviously I was happy the last season Ago just bombed out of the playoffs 0-6, right? I'm not saying now that that Ago won't win. I think Ago will win. I would really like it to be a 3-2 series. I still think Ago wins. I would really like it to be 3-2. I don't think it'll be a 3-0. So for me, it's either 3-2 or 3-1 for Ago. I agree with what you said. I think Knight and Rob will this will be a monster series for them. And that's the thing. If they win, I think they just go to Simnivak, right? And I think Leon and Lucker can play more champions, so there's a bigger chance that they will play the non-interactive lane. And that's something what I think, Chipset and Yashiro can't do in the Iron Wolves games. The sixth example I gave. I think that, as you said, there's much more champions on bot lane now. There's there's the Jinx, obviously, but there's more than that now. And I think Lucker is just so experienced that, worst case scenario, you just take Zyrock on every game and, you just play, they dive you just, the feathers up, you give away the tower, but I still think Lucker is just a player that even if he gives away the tower, they just don't die. If he has like the same amount of CS, Lucker will still be good in the late game, right? This is a very experienced player. And that's the problem. I believe Lucker Leon can play better weak side than in the Iron Wolves series, and this is also a problem for ESCA. Like, ESCA will win bot lane harder in the Iron Wolves series than they can win here. I still think they'll win, but it just won't be enough to overcome mid-jungle, especially. And the mid-jungle can then play to Sivnivak, and now you have a completely different problem.
Then a question to me, because we were saying that the Harpoon and Marlon should be able to win this lane, but not enough to make a difference. So my question is, why don't you sack the mid-jungle duo in your team as ESCA, get something like, I don't know, super fucking roaming, just say, I don't give a fuck about my lane, I'm going bot. I'm going to them, I'm going to help them, I'm going to kill their bot lane, dive them, take the tower, follow them around all the map.
It's not going to save, but it's not going to save you. That's the problem. It's actually not going to save you because, again, okay, dump all of your resources into Harpoon and Marlon. Go ahead and do that. Sindivak is going to pick himself up a Camille, and you're done for. You're actually done for. Because as much as AD carries have a lot of influence on the map, they do. They do have a lot of team fight potential on their hand. I know we were saying that AD carries are just, living the worst life of that they ever did. And in a way, it's true. On the other hand, how many MVPs from AD carries have we had in Ultraliga's regular season?
Yeah, well, Harpoon has had a lot.
Harpoon, Alaka,
that's
Yashiro, they're doing miracles because it's also a very influencing role. But the problem is that you pick yourself up something like a Camille, something like a Rakan, anything with a little bit of hard control, and your AD carry just disappears. Because unfortunately, with a lot of damage, there comes a lot of non-sustainability and non-survivability. Dump all of your resources into Harpoon, go ahead and do that. Even Kaiser is not going to help him because one Hextech ultimatum, you're done.
I have like a problem from even the science perspective. You can't, you can't cheat science, and I can't imagine that Mrozku, obviously solo queue player style, because he doesn't have that much competitive experience. So it's good that he's playing, Yone, Yasuo, LeBlanc, Akali. You know what I mean? Like these champions, they work in solo queue. Just do your thing in the game, right? I can't. When I watch LEC and I watch Perks, yes, Perks is such a sophisticated player that I would give him Rise, right? Because I know that this guy can do what you're saying, Bartek. He can roam, and he can roam at the right time. He can roam in such a way that he won't die during the roam, and he'll roam in such a way that actually helps. I can't imagine Mrozku becoming, from week to week, such an experienced player that he's going to know how to roam correctly. I actually think that ESCA should probably try to do the complete opposite and actually all in just Mrozku, just play Yasuo, Yona, Akali, and if we gank 5 times mid, maybe there's one game where you get the 5-0 on Yasuo and then we win. I just can't imagine Mrozku playing a control map style. I just can't imagine it.
So funnel strategy also goes out the window then.
I think
We're
so.
Putting
I
the
think that,
AD carry mid with the support dominating through that, like we used to see in season 8, I think, before the meta switch.
I think exactly. I think that's the hope of ESCA, that you leave bot 2 versus 2 because Marlon and Harpoon will win. It's not going to be a large margin that they win, but they'll still win. And you somehow win 2v2 on mid. That's the chance for ESCA. So then you don't really have to play towards bot because bot won by itself, but you don't allow also the enemy to roam there.
So maybe
I absolutely agree. Yeah.
Right?
Could you sacrifice bot lane then a little bit for the stability in mid?
You don't sacrifice it. You don't actually sacrifice it.
I'm looking for like anyway, like I'm just theory crafting throwing everything at the wall, seeing what sticks. For you guys.
I mean, basically, if you think about it, it's not going to be a 5-against-5 game. I guess that's the biggest and the most precise way how you can actually explain the matchup of ESCA Esports ESCA Gaming, sorry, not ESCA Esports, against Rogue. It's not 5-against-5. It's 3 versus 3, and then there's 2 versus 2. Because these guys, they're going to have their own life. They're not going to care about anything. Like, there's shit exploding there, throwing on the fan, and stuff like that. These guys are having fun. You've got Locker and Leon, Hopon and Malon, and they're having their own game. They're playing Dota 2. They're playing, I don't know, Heroes of the Storm. They're playing Hearthstone, for goodness sake. Whatever you like it. They're just having their own life. And these 3 will be the main topic, basically. Because whoever wins from the top side of the map is going to win the game. Because these guys will have enough influence regardless if they win the lane or not. We know that because Luca, as you absolutely correctly put it there, that even if he's going to lose a tower, if he goes even in CS, he's still going to play well. And you know that. And you still know that he's going to be influential on the map. Same goes with Harpoon, honestly speaking. Right? We've seen him to be consistently good on what he does and knowing precisely what he's supposed to be doing, especially if he's going to pick himself up something like AP Kaiser again. And then he's just going to, one-shot somebody just right out of the gate. So the biggest thing here, and this is where I completely agree, leave them alone. Let them have their fun. Let them have their real game of League of Legends, while we here are going to have a dick contest, who has the bigger one, and try to understand what to do in the game in order to win the series.
2 versus 2 dick contest on mid. Dick Aram.
Dickaram? And with
Yeah,
that,
there we go,
and with that, we're going to close of the show.
Okay, wait. So just I'm saying 3-2 for Agorog. I think ESCA will take 2 maps because they have the magic, but even when it's 2-2, I think like Ago wins the last map like easy. Like I still think that the 3 wins that Agorog do, they're like easy. The 2 wins that ESCA does, they're miracles. But it's still 3-2, but it's a one-sided 3-2 for Ago. That's what I'll say.
Can I vote with my head and with my heart? Like, do 2 separate votes?
Don't vote with your dick.
I won't. Thank you. I will not. I will not use any dick around magic. Okay. And I will say that in my heart, this is what I really want, and I would love to see that is a hard-boiled 3-2 5-game series when both opponents are just going to beat the crap out of each other, and then the last game I'm going to probably lose my voice for the entirety of my life, and I'm going to be very happy to do it. So it's a 3-2.
It would be great to have a good final. Last finals was good. Last finals was really good.
Exactly. I want to see something like this. I want to see something in which I'm just going to be actually sitting like this and casting it like that, because I can't contain myself. Remember that amazing screenshot that we had of Quickshot just jumping on a chair like this? I want to have this.
Yes, because actually the playoffs currently till now have been quite boring. Yeah. So if we get a boring final, oh man, that would be.
It's going to be a disappointment. But my head tells me that we're going to have a 3-1 Aga winning with 1 game from ESCA when they're going to pull this miracle, and we're going to lose our shit, and we're going to think, yes, it's the reverse sweep incoming, and then they're just going to win the last map, and you're going to go, oh well. Oh, anyway, we all expected that, right? I think this is what we're going to have, but I'm wishing for the other thing.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I think the realistic prediction is the one that I would go with as well. And with that, I guess we've come to a close of the show. I hope you guys liked it. I hope it was nice. For me, it was nice. I do not often get to talk in English. But other than that, thank you all for watching. Thank you, Gleb, for joining us. Thank you, Veggie, for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
And thank you as well. And see you tomorrow on the English broadcast of the Ultraliga finals. Goodbye. Yeah,
I'll be on the Polish broadcast tomorrow.
And Veggie on Polish broadcast. Yeah. See ya, guys.
Hey, bye.